the thing that you keep in is the thing that can make a difference in somebody's life, right?
That's
And
right.
the thing that you don't share is the thing someone needs who may be in the midst of that situation, because you're on the other side of what somebody may be currently in. And so we hold on to those teachings, and people struggle around us when we may have been given the unique opportunity to share the thing that could make a difference in their life.
Welcome to the Shaping Freedom podcast, where we dive into conversations that inspire personal growth, transformation, and clarity in challenging times. I'm your host, Lisane Basquiat. Welcome to Shaping Freedom with Lisane Basquiat podcast. We are broadcasting from the Baltimore Story Fest in Baltimore, Maryland. We're at the Baltimore Theater Project, and very honored to be one of this year's presenting sponsors for the Storyfest. Coming up next, please enjoy my interview with one of the festival's dynamic storytellers. This is an episode you're not going to want to miss. There are people who don't just lead, they lift. Today's guest, Antoine Garrett, is one of those people. He's a youth pastor, a life coach, a best-selling author, and the host of an inspiring radio show. Antoine has spent over 16 years empowering others to overcome limiting beliefs, reconnect with purpose, and lead lives rooted in faith, integrity, and self-worth. And tonight, he'll be stepping into a new space, the stage of the Baltimore Story Fest, where he'll share a personal story publicly for the first time. It's a moment of expansion, vulnerability, and courage. Whether from the pulpit or through the pen, Antoine has always inspired others to grow. And now he invites us to witness a different kind of rising, one where his own voice takes center stage in a new way. Hi, Antoine.
Hi.
I want to share personally that I was very surprised to see your name. I was going on Facebook to share about this Baltimore Story Fest. And I saw your name and I saw that you had shared it as well, and learned that you were going to be participating in tonight's lineup. I used to belong to a church in Newark, Metropolitan Baptist Church, that you were the assistant youth pastor at. And I was sharing with Billy and some other, and Phil, that there are sermons that you told that I still remember to this day. So it's interesting how life brings us full circle, right? So anyway, I wanted to welcome you to the Shaping Freedom podcast, Antoine, and I'm looking forward to what we create.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to the experience and our conversation.
Yeah. So tonight, you'll be sharing your story for the first time. What does this feel like, and how are you preparing for it?
You know, it's an interesting question because people see you at certain places in your journey. They don't always know how the journey began. And they don't understand. And sometimes even for myself, reflecting on this particular story, the moments that opened doors that in the moment when it happened, I didn't understand the gravity of what was being open to me. A whole new world was being shown to me that I couldn't appreciate in the moment. But it literally changed the trajectory of my life.
Wow. As I mentioned before, I knew of you. We don't know each other closely, but I've certainly felt and heard your words. I remember you told a sermon about watching the signs. And I think, if I remember correctly, it was something about you driving down the Garden State Parkway or somewhere, and it was something about the signs that you were watching. And I remembered that and still do. I know that your journey has taken you from, I don't know where you were before, New Jersey, but it has brought you here, right? What are some of the signs that have been defining moments for you that have led you to be in a place where you're getting ready to tell some of your story today?
That's a good question, because the signs were people. The signs were people who were speaking into my life at critical junctures, helping to redirect, helping to reinforce that there was value, that there was something in me that at points in time, especially the story I'll share, where I didn't see the value in myself. I didn't understand that I had something to offer anybody. My history, my life story, my dad's absence, shaped me in such a way that I didn't think I was valuable or wanted. And so the people that I would encounter, mostly Black men, were people who were signs that there was more to me than I gave myself credit for.
Yeah. Or that you knew to give yourself
absolutely.
credit for.
Absolutely.
It's so interesting that you've been a youth pastor for a long time. And I know that a lot of your work is around helping youth and providing that spiritual guidance. How has your experience as a young person shaped your career as a pastor?
Sure. What I learned was that most young people look for one caring adult, right? They hope to have at least one caring adult in their journey. And when I came out of college, I went to work in foster care. And I started to encounter young people who had not just they were missing a dad, they were missing family, period.
Yeah.
And it began to open my eyes about the importance of adult caregivers and adults who cared in the lives of young people and the difference it could make. And so throughout my journey, that's what I've sought to do, to be that guiding force, that ground, that safe space for young people, to help show them what I didn't see, that there is more to them than their circumstances might allow, and that they can do great things if they just have the courage, but that I'll be there to support and cheer them on and push them. And even when things don't go so well, I'll be there for them to lean on and bounce back with. Yeah.
You know, a lot of the work that I do through Shaping Freedom is talking to parents. I think very often we go straight for the children and they're carrying the burden of their whole family. And we're just seeing what's being reflected from that experience. What would you say, based on the experience that you've had over, well over a decade working with young people, what are some things that parents really need to know and hear?
I think the things that when I listen to our young people, when I've listened over my almost 20 years of working with young people, one is that your child wants to be heard. We came from a generation where you were seen and not heard. You did because I said to do.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we forgot that they were little humans who had real feelings, real thoughts, real emotions. And so I would encourage parents to listen to their children and not just tell their children, right? The Bible does tell us that, we should train children in the way that they should go. So when they get older, that they would not depart from it. But part of that training is teaching them how to be good listeners.
That's right.
Teaching them how to be good humans, teaching them how to respect other people's opinions. And there's no better way for that to start than at home, right? For their words to be heard, for their thoughts and feelings to matter. I would tell parents to listen, but I would also tell parents to pay attention, because there's so much that goes unsaid that we overlook, that adults overlook. In young people, they're with them every day and they say, I know my child, but you're missing the signs. You're missing the signs that your child is trying to tell you, I need help. I need a hug. I need somebody to listen to me.
Yeah.
So I would tell them definitely to listen. I would tell them to be more attentive and not miss any signs, as we talked about a little bit ago. But I would also encourage parents to give themselves space and grace. None of us have an instruction manual when we become parents. We're going to make mistakes. We're not going to do everything correctly. give yourself the space and grace to recognize that, yes, you may have made a mistake. Maybe you raised your voice or said something you shouldn't have. Go back and apologize, make it right, allow yourself room to grow.
Yeah.
And be open with that with your children, because that teaches them that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay if you do something that isn't received so well, but there's a way back from it. There's a path that you can heal and move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I've observed is that a lot of times I hear adult people talking about their childhood trauma or things that happened or the negative ways that they experienced their caretakers and parents. And what I believe is that a lot of times those are not people who were intentionally seeking to hurt, but those are people who were themselves burnt out or struggling or who were attempting to live by this idea that a parent is supposed to be completely apart and separate from the child because their work is to show up in a way that allows them to exude that discipline or that authority over their children. And I get it. I understand it. And I think there are aspects of that approach to parenting that works on some level. But if we were to look at how children are coming out of those households, there's plenty of room for growth and change and shifting.
Yeah.
Because our children a lot of times don't feel safe at home.
Absolutely.
Part of being seen and heard is feeling safe and feeling like who you are matters and that you'll be accepted no matter what.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if for one, our children are not us.
Right.
They're not our grandparents, and today's experience for a child is different than that of generations ago.
Yeah.
And so to expect us to operate the same way our parents did or our grandparents did is, ludicrous, to be honest. But parents, I know they're doing the best they can. But to the point that you said about living out past traumas and hurts and difficulties, that's where the parent has to do the work, though.
Exactly. Right?
Like that work is for us as the adult to do the self-work, to realize, hey, this isn't working for me. Mm-hmm. I'm spending all this time and all I do is yell at my child. That doesn't make me feel good. It doesn't yield a positive result because they don't do what you want them to do. Oftentimes it pushes them further away, right? And so there's an opportunity for the adult to do some introspection, to examine how they became the way that they did, right? And that sometimes is eye-opening for them. Sometimes it's hard, though, because there's work that they've not done in 20, 30, 40, 50 years. But all it takes is a step.
Yes.
The first step is saying, you know what, this isn't working. I need help. Mm-hmm. That can be a life changer for them and change the trajectory of their entire family.
Absolutely. And I'm a testament to that. Mm-hmm. There comes a point where we as parents are presented with an opportunity to do, and I'm just going to say it, the lazy thing, which is, well, this is the way I was raised and I'm okay. I'm living in, I made out all right. Right. So that's what I'm going to pour in. I think that it's lazy. I think that this child is God's creation and that we are gifted with the opportunity to raise up our brother or sister in God. Mm-hmm. And there's creation that has gone into that from the Creator. And I think that it is a job that we can apply some creativity to. Meaning, what is it? Like taking a moment for each individual to have the gift of someone who stops for a moment to say, okay, I'm going to put myself on the back burner for a second. Who is this person? What do they need? What does this individual person need? And while I'm doing that work, who am I? And what do I need? So a lot of parents are in this position of parenting themselves
while
Yeah.
also showing up as parents for
Yeah.
their children.
Yeah.
And the older they get, the older the child gets, the more the sense of urgency for us to do our work.
Mhm.
All right, can we talk a moment about setting the vibe? If you're anything like me, your space needs to feel good in order for you to feel good. And that's why I created the Shaping Freedom line of candles. It's not just about ambiance, but really about how you align yourself internally. These are more than just candles. They shift your energy. Whether you're journaling, meditating, working out, or just taking a moment for yourself, these scents are curated to ground you, lift you up, and bring you back home to yourself. They also have an 80-hour burn time and scents that are designed to evoke feelings of alignment and internal congruency. And we can all use that. Go to shop.shapingfreedom.com and check them out. Find the one that speaks to your spirit, or buy all four, and let them burn with intention.
As you pointed out, the parents doing the work is important. Sometimes what happens is the parent, they don't emotionally grow past a certain point, and they are trying the best they can with limited resources.
That's right.
And so the idea of seeking help, the idea of giving yourself space and grace is a foreign concept to a lot of folks, because they've adopted and lived by and defended, it worked for me and I turned out all right. Well, did you really turn out all right?
Exactly.
I think if you looked in the mirror and did the hard work, to your point about being the lazy part, right? That this is what works for me, so I'm just going to keep doing it. But it's not really working.
It's not working, right.
And if we're honest with ourselves, and if we're in community and we can be honest with each other,
Please.
then it might be a little bit easier to receive, because I might lie to myself, but I trust you. You're my friend. You're going to say to me, hey, this really isn't working.
Yeah.
You know, that's not the best way to go about it. Have you considered this? The challenge is not only are parents struggling to do to make ends meet, but trying to figure out how to be the best they can. We live in a society where very few people want to cross that line.
That's right.
And they're not willing to say to the other person, that's not really working. You're hurting yourself more than you realize. You're pushing your child further away than you realize.
Yeah.
So it's been my goal, my task, my privilege to work with young people, but then to take that message back to parents and say, to offer them some strategies to help improve the relationship, to open the doors for communication, and strengthen the bonds they have with their children.
Absolutely. And I think it is something that could and should be pushed into society. We need to become more comfortable speaking to each other. We need to become more comfortable truth telling.
Yeah.
And being willing to receive it as a reflection without defense.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because
Yeah.
the world is constantly giving us feedback. And this isn't to beat up parents, because parents, I'm a parent, right? It is a very challenging job, and there really is no playbook for it. And that's why so many people just go back to the way they were raised.
For sure.
Right? Like, that's the playbook. Like, what did they do for me? That's what I'm going to do for them.
For sure.
But I think that if we were to, just as a society, start becoming more comfortable telling each other the truth, being willing to hear the truth, even when it's uncomfortable, and being willing to look in that mirror at what's happening and at the feedback that our world is giving us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're not in great relationship with our children. We're not having great relationships with other people. You know, we're not speaking to 50 people. 25 people aren't speaking to us. That's feedback.
Absolutely.
You know, that is big information that we can use to really course correct and take a look at what's going on inside.
I think part of it is normalizing growth.
Yeah.
And because I've gotten to this place, I'm comfortable where I am, it's working for me. That suggests you're not willing, you have an, you're opposed to growing because this works for you, right? So you don't even want to investigate what might help you become better, what might help you shift things in your relationship because this works for you.
Yeah.
And so as a culture, we talk about growth, we talk about self-care, we talk about all of these things, but putting it into practice is a different thing.
Right.
Right. And we're being willing to do the hard work, as you mentioned, for that self-evaluation, but also as we do in coaching, right? The 360 feedback, being able to hear from people around you that mean something to you, whose input you can hear, receive, and act on is a different thing. And not everyone is ready to do that. Although I believe that type of relationship and shift would be monumental for parents, for adult relationships, for community, period.
Absolutely. And it really comes down to the relationship that you're in with yourself.
Absolutely.
Because what we're doing, however we're showing up oftentimes, is exactly how we're treating ourselves. So if we were to get better about understanding where we could use some improvement in our relationship with ourselves, it would translate into better relationships at home, better relationships in the neighborhood, in communities. And then we have a chance to really change things within culture and within society.
Well, I think the part about that is I was reading, I think it was Joyce Meyer at one point in time, Battlefield of the Mind. And there was a statement that stuck with me after I read it. And she said, it's not the way you are, it's the way you've become. Because far too many of us will say, that's just the way I am.
Right.
Well, no, you weren't born that way.
That's right.
Something happened along the line, or something didn't happen along the line that has helped shape who you show up as. We, by default, accept this place and space and say, that's how I am. I'm just bitter. I'm just cold. I'm just distant. Well, what happened?
Yeah.
What were the circumstances that contributed to that? That's the part that folks, that we struggle to do the work with, because it's hard work to look in that mirror.
That's a hard question to answer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing though, right? Your relationship with yourself. You're not being honest with yourself, saying that's just the way I am.
Right. Because you're not okay.
Because it's also not just the way you have to stay.
That's right.
That may be how you've been for this period of time, but it doesn't mean you have to stay there.
That's right.
You can make a decision to move differently, to live differently, to think differently. It's going to take some work, but it starts with a decision.
Yeah.
And that's the part that we have to help more and more people see, embrace, and begin to live out.
Yeah. Wow. Completely different direction than I was expecting. I love this though. This is amazing. In your book, Prepare for Takeoff, you talk about overcoming beliefs and behaviors that block us. I think this is a great segue into this question, right? What belief or behavior did you have to confront in order to step into the storyteller that you're becoming, Antoine?
That I had a voice worth hearing. The funny thing about Prepare for Takeoff, it is a true story. It was a story that took me 9 years to publish. I wrote the story in 2008.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I published it in 2017.
Okay.
Because even though I was writing that, I had to myself believe that I had a voice worth hearing. So I had to get over, it's not perfect. Well, I need to go back and edit. I need to do this. Let me reread it again. Let me do all of these things. It took 9. So fun fact. I gave this presentation in Los Angeles, 2008. At the end of the presentation, a young lady came over and said, is that anywhere where I can buy it? At that time, it's DVDs or CDs or whatever. And I said, no, it's not actually. I only wrote it for the presentation. And she said, oh, you should consider doing something with that.
Oh, wow.
It was literally my presentation for a women's conference in Los Angeles that I wrote on a plane after I went through all of those things, wrote it all down, delivered the presentation, wrote it and said, man, she was right. This could be a good thing. And for 9 years,
You sat on it.
I sat on it because I questioned, was it good enough? Would people take me as a credible author? Would they believe this? Would they want to hear my voice through my words? So the thing I had to overcome was that I had a voice worth hearing.
What is that? It's so interesting because I have had the privilege and honor of watching you on stage at church, at the pulpit. And I have watched you also over the years. And you are a magnificent speaker. Like when you're speaking, it is clear that this is what you were put on this planet for. And yet you question whether people would want to hear your voice. I have had some of those same struggles. I'm working through some of them right now.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how challenging it has been for me to really believe it. Mm-hmm. Right? I was chatting with Phil earlier before we spoke, and he was talking about something with his book and kind of a similar, wanting it to be perfect kind of thing. It's a rhetorical question, but it's like, what is that?
For me, it was self-promotion I struggled with.
Oh, I totally struggle with self-promotion. I'm getting better at it today.
Yeah, like standing in the pulpit in that moment, it's not about me.
Yeah.
Promoting a book, telling a story is about me. Now you're looking at me.
Yes.
And so in that regard, I had to learn, I'm learning to separate it and not just separate it, but to keep the same mindset, right? Like, why are you doing it? At the end of the day, it's why are you doing it? It's not about you. It's about helping someone else. It's about sharing a piece of yourself that ultimately you want to be able to have someone resonate with, that will shift their thinking, shift their perspective, shift their life.
Wow.
And so that's what I'm learning in this process, right? Like sharing these things about myself, whether it's storytelling or through written word, is that it's not about you. It's given to you to share with somebody else. Promotion has to happen because somebody has to hear it, right? So you do it, you don't do it to put it on a shelf.
Right.
But it's designed to be a blessing to somebody else. And so that's what I'm learning about the journey. No different than if I stand in the pulpit or if I lead a youth session. It's designed to help someone else. Yeah.
I'm smiling because that came to me in prayer and you're repeating it. And I was like, it's like, well, it's not about you. It's about why you're here and what you have to share.
Yeah.
And that all of this is to help someone else.
Yeah.
To help other people.
Yeah.
And that has helped me. And it's still been challenging because I was raised, I'm first generation Haitian, and my mother was Puerto Rican. And I was really raised with almost an insane amount of humility. Right? And so I saw, and I remember when I first stepped into entrepreneurship back in 2008, and it was so hard for me even to write the copy for my website because I didn't want to self-promote.
Yeah.
I was like, and I was also raised to be incredibly private.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So the fact that I'm able to actually sit here and host a podcast or do the work that I'm doing it has taken so much work to get to this place, and to hear you share that was one of your challenges that you're working through as well. I'm not happy at your challenge, but I'm kind of glad that I'm not in it by myself.
You're not in it by yourself.
I'm not in it by myself.
But that's the thing. There are a lot of us that struggle with that, right? Because we're socialized also to be private in many ways, right? And
don't boast.
You don't boast. You don't, especially now you're talking about telling stories. What happens in our house stays in our house. From the earliest times I can remember that saying, so you begin, that's ingrained. We don't share our business, and so part of storytelling is sharing things that grandmama might not have approved of, or mom and dad might not have approved of. But it doesn't mean it's not your story.
That's right.
You know, and again, the thing that you keep in is the thing that can make a difference in somebody's life, right?
That's
and
right.
The thing that you don't share is the thing someone needs who may be in the midst of that situation, because you're on the other side of what somebody may be currently in. And so we hold on to those teachings, and people struggle around us when we may have been given a unique opportunity to share the thing that could make a difference in their life.
Absolutely. And also what stays in the house and doesn't get shared means that it doesn't change either.
Sure.
You don't evolve the family culture when everything is kept insulated in that house within those limiting beliefs.
Yep.
You know, those ways of being, those behaviors that are really not productive or conducive for the family's legacy itself.
Yeah.
So there has to be, we have to transform our approach to family legacy.
Mm-hmm.
We have to see that it is, yes, generational wealth is incredibly important. It is. And without mental and emotional well-being, the ability to actually generate wealth to pass along is so significantly inhibited.
Oh gosh, yeah.
HeraHub Carlsbad is a co-working space and member community designed to empower entrepreneurs. More than just a workspace, HeraHub Carlsbad is a business accelerator and a connected network of successful entrepreneurs. Imagine a collaborative, serene, and spa-inspired environment where you can thrive. Our unique community allows each member to be both a guide and a student, fostering leadership and continuous growth for both you and your business. Experience an uplifting, supportive atmosphere that will elevate your entrepreneurial journey. For more information about HeraHub Carlsbad or to schedule a tour, visit herahub.com/Carlsbad. We also have locations in Temecula, Irvine, Washington, D.C., and HeraHub Carlsbad is one of 3 HeraHub locations in San Diego, the others being in Mission Valley and La Jolla.
Interesting that you said that, because as you were talking, I thought about the things that we don't talk about. They don't change, and we don't have an opportunity to heal.
Exactly.
Because there's so much that went, and just my own journey, so much went unspoken that we didn't know about as we got older as kids. And I talked to my siblings, and it was like, so wait, what happened? Wow, no one ever talked about that.
Yeah.
And now you begin to understand some of the nuances and the things that you see, and even bits and pieces about yourself.
Absolutely.
Right. And so that mindset that we keep everything inside, oftentimes it hurts us more than it helps us.
Absolutely it does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely it does. And we have to find the balance. We have to find the harmony between respecting your home and respecting your family members, and also being open to asking for help, to reaching outside to ask for help and support. And I think that that will put us on the road to less depression, less anxiety, less of a lot of the challenges that our society is facing today in terms of our cultural interactions.
Yeah. So in 21, that keep it inside, not talk about it, what happens in the house, stay in the house, led me to a moderately depressed diagnosis. Because I was carrying the weight of my dad passing and coming through COVID and losing so many family members and friends and all of those things, and carrying that weight and not wanting to let anybody in until finally I was like, okay, wait a minute. Something has to change. And so I did just that. I reached out. I made an appointment to took the little assessment, and then she was like, yeah, this suggests that, yeah, there's something here. This isn't just, you're in a funk. Like, there is something here. And so, I did therapy continually, as I need to. But I also did something different, wanting to be part of the solution and not just keep it inside. I ended up going back to school to get a master's degree in mental health and wellness, because I wanted to help others, especially now, young people, right? Bringing it back to them. I wanted to help them understand some of the signs, some of the risk factors that contribute to what they may be experiencing, but also help them get some strategies on how to fight it, how to deal with it, how to manage it, and not be afraid to reach out for help, to break the stigma. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I think it's a lot of times you talked before about, children being seen and not heard. I think it's children learn through the way we model for them. And what we do is so much more important and impactful than what the direct instruction.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And I think that knowing that we're not in a place that we need to be and being willing to go and ask for help is, like you said, it's the first step.
Yep.
I was raised to not ask anyone for help. I was raised to be incredibly self-sufficient and to have really strong work ethic. And some of that is amazing, but it has also kept me in solitude and in a silos of struggle during the times in my life where I did not feel comfortable asking for help or even telling people who are closest to me that, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
And it took a series of events to happen. It was actually my father passing away in 2013. And it was with the passing of my father that I processed the passing of my brother, the passing of my mother in 2008. And it was like all of the loss came up and presented itself at the same time for me.
Yeah.
And it was so hard.
Yeah.
It was so hard. But I also knew that if it had presented itself, that somewhere in me, I was ready to really look at that and unpack it. And I'm so glad that I did, because it was that crossroad that we talked about before where I could have been like, you know what, girl, you're just going to get it together.
Oh, yeah.
Buck up and don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Or to sink into that very vulnerable, emotionally painful space. But it's the best thing I ever could have done for myself, for my family, for myself as a mother, as a leader, as in everything that I do. It really helped.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It also helped me to have a greater sense of awareness that, it's not just a cliche that everybody you meet is dealing with something, right? Because the people who encountered me before then or during that time wouldn't have known it.
Oh, yeah.
Because I didn't show it, right?
Yes.
And so it's also helped me to think and to pause and to have a bit of empathy for folks I encounter, because I don't know their journey. I don't know what they're currently dealing with. I don't know what happens when they leave the space we're in together. I don't know the loneliness they feel when they sit in the car and close the door and they're by themselves and they can actually exhale or cry or whatever they feel. I don't know those things. And so I can't assume based on my limited experience or exposure that I know their journey. And I think that helps me, whether it's a young person or an adult, to encounter them and engage them with a little bit more openness, more willingness to hear and be considerate, and to have compassion.
Yeah.
And not be so closed-minded. And that was something I think I struggled with, or I didn't know that I needed to do coming up. But my own journey has helped me recognize that and show up that way for others.
Thank you for sharing that. So this actually isn't your first journey into storytelling, because you wrote the book and told the story there. what do you hope to come of this journey of storytelling that you're on?
I've spent 25 years empowering others. In this phase, my hope is that what I empower someone else to do is tell their story. To share that piece of them that they have been sitting on, that they've been kept tucked away, that could make a difference and shine a light in somebody's life. It might make them laugh. It might make them cry. But my hope is that just to encourage someone else that it's okay to speak up. It's okay to share a part of yourself.
Yeah.
I've spent so many years keeping people at a distance. I'm now in a place where I'm comfortable enough with myself that storytelling allows people to see another piece of me.
Wow. Well, I'm very grateful that I'm going to have the opportunity to watch you do that later on this evening. Before we close, I want to ask, how can we support you?
Well, I mean, the various opportunities that I'm engaged in. Actually, you know what? You would be supporting me by taking time for a young person in your space, by making space for them. I'm not going to promote a book or a website or Instagram, none of that. You would be helping me by helping another young person in your space. For anybody that would listen or watch, there's somebody in your space that needs a caring adult. That may be a niece, a nephew, a neighbor. So to help me, it would be to help them know that adults care, and to make a difference by just being willing to lend a listening ear to them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your generosity and taking time right before you have to get into something to chat with me and to chat with the Shaping Freedom audience. I really, really genuinely appreciate it. And thank you for sharing so openly. I know that there are those who are listening who will take note of that. I think, and thank you also for your requests that people help the young people that are within their world and within their orbit. They're looking to us for guidance, for help, for instruction. And I would just add that do your work. If you're an adult person, do your work.
Yeah.
Do your work so that you can show up more powerfully for the people, the young people that are in your orbit.
Absolutely.
Because they want us they need us healthy.
Absolutely.
Antoine, thank you so much.
Thank you again.